There will be people who are quite severely disabled. For example, my executive assistant, she's Nadia, you know her, she's a local girl, cerebral palsy. She can move only the tip of one finger. She can't move the whole finger, only the tip. Right. And then everything else you cannot move below the neck. All the other fingers are totally not mobile. So, but she can actually, with the tip of her finger, she operates a mouse upside down.
Hey guys, welcome to another amazing episode of Coffee with Dombi. This time around, I'll be bringing my boss on today's show. Yes, my boss. He started Gynashteem. This amazing company leverages technology and hires from the marginalized community. I can't wait for everyone to listen to this amazing story and how he built the Genashtim from the ground up. Let's begin. Thomas, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Very well, thank you, Bernard.
You know, Thomas, I really have to say thank you because you are such a special guest. I've always wanted to bring you on board the show. And I think I'm really lucky because, as we know, you came down to Malaysia for a meetup with the Malaysian staff because you're originally based, you live in Australia, right?
That's right.
So yeah, thank you for, I have to say thank you for, coming on board. It was not easy catching you. You were really busy, right? I had to get the right schedule.
Yeah, that's okay, my pleasure.
So Thomas, today we're going to talk about the beautiful company that you've built, Gynashteem. And we're going to talk about the progress, how far Gynashteem has come, and all the challenges you faced in building Gynashteem. So Thomas, let's start with talking about maybe your early life. I'm sure everyone would like to hear your early life prior to starting Gynashteem.
Yeah. Well, it's a very simple story. I was born and raised in Penang to what I call a lower middle class family. My parents never had any form of motorized transport. They went around bicycles, and we never owned our own home. We lived in my grandmother's home. But that was I was quite driven, and my mother was also very driven, bit of a tiger mom. Sure. And so early on in life, I knew that I had to really work hard to change the lives for my family. And so, by hook or by crook, I managed to actually go overseas and, get a university degree from New Zealand. My uncle helped with guaranteeing me financially and all that. And then I had a very good corporate career. I worked for 25 years for two multinational companies. And I rose to very senior positions. I was an expatriate. I was one of the early expatriates in Asia, or Asian expatriates in Asia. Right. And I was an expatriate for 15 years. And then I decided to quit corporate life and try to do something else, and then stumbled onto the idea of starting Genashtim.
Wow, that's amazing. So you're originally from Penang, huh? I'm so proud that my boss is a Malaysian. That makes us so proud. Yeah. And Thomas, why hire from the marginalized community? What inspired you to make that move for Gynashteem? Okay,
so when you work for a big multinational company in a very senior position, at that time I was running, the subsidiary in the Philippines as country manager. It was quite a big organization. You have to sign these contracts, which I wasn't even aware that I signed a contract that had what they call a garden leave clause.
Oh, garden
leave clause, yeah. And when I resigned from the company, I resigned because I was working in the Philippines already for 6 years, and my family was in Melbourne, Australia. So I wanted to just spend time with the family. I wanted to take off a few years, I thought, from my corporate life. So at the right old age of 47, I resigned from the company. And then when you resign, they, kicked in this garden leave clause in the sense that I have to continue to stay 1 year on the payroll, but I didn't have to work.
Oh, okay.
They paid for everything. And this garden leave clause is intended to prevent you from going to a competitor.
I see.
Right. So I tried to get out of it. I said, look, I have no interest to, I want to take some time off to be with the family and prepared to sign any document. But I said, no. You can go back and see your family whenever you want, but we want you to be on call for 1 year. So whilst I was running that company in the Philippines, I was, invited to the board of a lot of NGOs. I always said no because, I'm busy. I got a job to do. So during that 1 year, I had no excuse. So I decided to accept one of the invitations. And I was intrigued because this was a computer school for the blind.
Okay.
So I said, blind people using the computer. So, and when I, attended the first kind of a meeting with them, and I was totally floored, and a blind person could make a PowerPoint presentation with music built in. And then I said, did you make the presentation yourself? He said, yes. I said, I don't believe you. And then he said, well, question me on anything, I show you anything. So I said, why don't we compete? Look for something on the internet and see who finds it first. And he was faster than I was.
Wow.
He found something on the internet faster than I was. So, but there's a trick to it. There's a reason why he's faster than me. And a blind person is not faster in everything. It's certain things only. So you need to understand, right? So I thought, okay, I will join the board. It's my responsibility then to put these people in employment. Because that NGO had trained 500 blind people over 5 years to use a computer, but hardly one or two were actually employed. Actually, no one was independently employed. There was one girl who was employed by one of the board of trustees companies, and that company hired 10,000 people and hired only one of the graduates. So I said, okay, I'm going to try to put them onto the unemployment. So I brought the graduates to see all my friends who are running companies in the Philippines, and everybody get very excited when they present because they're impressive. And then, but to actually try to make them employees of the company, we went through 2.5 years of spinning our wheels and nothing happened. There's always some reason or other that things had to be postponed. People left the job and wait for the new person to come on, and there's a corporate problem, globally, and they have to suspend everything, So after 2.5 years, I just felt this is not going to work. And so I said, well, I believe they can be productive, so let's start our own company. So that's how the company was started, with the single purpose of providing employment for disadvantaged people and starting with people with disabilities.
Right, I really like that. So you decided, let's just start a company and do it ourselves because it's so difficult out there, right?
Yeah.
It is so, and it's moving very slowly with others.
It's not moving. Basically, it was not moving.
It was not moving at all.
And the interesting thing is that because we started in Manila, right? I was still in Manila at that time, and commuting to work is a huge problem even for normal people. It's not unusual for someone to take 2 to 3 hours to commute one way to go to work. So for people with disabilities, it was really totally impossible. So because of that, we said, okay, then let's try to come up with a work from home model. So those are the early days, and the internet was at least 2008, right? The internet
2008,
wasn't kind of like mature enough, right? So
exactly.
We struggled a bit, but we managed to get it to work. So fine, everybody can work remotely. Now, then we need to digitalize everything because everybody's, so even during those days, we were using Google Docs, collaborating online. And so we were actually doing a cloud-based operations.
Right.
And in those days, the term cloud-based wasn't even invented yet. So we were doing things which, they found a description for later on, right? So we digitalized everything. So our company has been, since 2008, a totally digitalized company. We have no physical office or physical files anywhere.
Right.
And then, of course, then we sat down and said, what the hell are we going to do? What business are we going to be in, right? So now we know we can work. We have people who can work. We can have a platform. We can connect. So what is it we're going to do, right? So again, early days of e-learning. So we thought, let's do e-learning because it's something we can do online, right? So we started with e-learning, and in 2008, we were probably about 7 years too early. So it was a very, very tough struggle initially.
Right. Okay. So it's interesting because you started out with helping the blind, but can you tell us now more about the employees that are currently in Gynashteem? Like, can you tell about their abilities and who are they and what are they doing?
Okay, so I want to kind of go back to March 2018.
Okay.
Because at that point in time, we had about 70 over employees in the company.
Okay.
And at that time, 90% of them were people with disabilities.
90%?
90% at that time.
That is huge, yeah.
Yeah, and they were from more than 10 countries around the world, right?
Okay.
So that was the time when somebody approached me to consider hiring the refugees. And these are the Middle Eastern refugees who are stuck in Indonesia.
Right.
So I said, well, send me the resumes, and when I received the resumes, some of them really kind of made me, jump out of my chair. There was a guy there who was experienced and qualified to use articulate storyline, which is very hard at that time to find people with that kind of skill.
I haven't even heard of that. What is that?
Articulate storyline is a software that's used for constructing e-learning, and you can use that to port it onto LMS.
Oh, okay.
So you cannot just load simply PDF files or PowerPoint files.
Right.
You're going to make it interactive and all that. You have to construct the e-learning in a software. There are various software out there, but the most commonly used is called articulate storyline. So I did, I remember I read his resume on a Friday,
Right.
and I called my team and said, we had to interview this guy immediately over the weekend, and he started work on Monday. So the first refugee we hired, then we hired an accounting person, and so in that year we hired 30 refugees. So our population increased to 100 employees.
Amazing.
And 30% were refugees, and then about 60-something% were people with disabilities. And then the year after that, in Malaysia, there was this scheme to hire people who are, retirees or reach a certain age, and we got introduced to this company, social enterprise called Hire Seniors.
Okay.
So I was quite intrigued. So I met the founders and said, okay, we would be prepared to, because we were a young company, and most of the people that we hired were not qualified, not experienced.
Right.
People with disabilities have less opportunity to get qualified and much less opportunity to gain work experience. So I said,
totally.
it'd be a good compliment, right? I get the older guys with a bit more experience who have trouble finding a job. Right? So we started hiring, and today, probably, I think maybe today we have 150, 160 people. And I think probably 15% are seniors. Maybe refugees are 15, 20%. And people with disabilities is just over 50%, probably, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, people don't really understand how can someone with a disability work in the company.
Yeah.
So I would like to hear you share, I know in Gynashteem we have all kinds of employees, even employees who are paralyzed from the neck down. Yeah. So can you tell me how does people do their work on a daily basis?
Yeah. So you start with the most disabled ones that are totally, not mobile from the neck down, so they cannot move anything. And they use the computer purely by voice, and we have actually two such people in the company. One of them is Malaysian, and the other one is Filipina. And they've been with the company for a long time, probably 7-8 years. And they are perfectly productive because they can use the voice to activate the computer, and it's actually quite interesting how they do
voice recognition, right?
Voice recognition, yeah. And they use a grid. They activate a grid, and then they use the grid numbers. So they go grid 1, then the 1 will become 9 squares, then 3, then 2, then they go down to that point and say enter. So that's how they actually move around on the screen. So it's quite amazing how they can do this. And
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and then of course we have then the next level be people who are quite severely disabled. For example, my executive assistant, she's Nadia. We know her. She's a local girl, cerebral palsy. She can move only the tip of one finger. She can't move the whole finger, only the tip. Right. And then everything else she cannot move below the neck. All the other fingers are totally not mobile. So, but she can actually, with the tip of her finger, she operates a mouse upside down.
Wow.
So it's quite of an experience to learn how she actually does that. And she's amazing. She's also been with the company 7 or 8 years. And she runs my life.
She handles all your appointments.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
That's amazing. And all this employee, like you were telling, the voice recognition and all, they are just as productive as the other normal employees, correct?
Yes, and the reason why they are is because the important thing is to understand what their limitations are, and you give them a job which focus on their abilities, not and don't need those disabilities. So I like to describe it as in a normal company, you have different people with different skills. For example, you have your accounting people who are bookkeepers and all that, right?
Yep.
And you have the sales people who do sales, right?
Yep.
So they have different skills. So they have different personalities. You put them into a job which suit them. If you try to put an accounting person to do a sales job, you will get no sales. Company will go bankrupt, right? But if you put a salesperson doing an accounting job, probably lose everything, you know. So you wouldn't do that. So you look at people with different disabilities as you
tap into their skills,
that's
right? Right.
And I think technology has enabled a lot. You know, I mean, the blind people are using what is called a screen reader. So they talk to the computer talks to them, and they can be very, very fast.
Yeah, I love that, because when you say technology, that just reminded me of Gynashteem's mission. Can you tell us the mission?
Well, the company was set up, as I mentioned, with only one very simple single purpose, which till today we remind ourselves every day. Our purpose is to provide employment for the disadvantaged. For those people who have less opportunity to be employed, and we give them the opportunity. If they do well, it's good. If they don't do well, you know, we are a commercial company. We don't keep people who will drag us down.
And you do this by leveraging technology, correct?
Yes.
Amazing. Like, wow, I feel like people out there hear Gynashteem, they need to hear what Gynashteem is. Gynashteem is doing a great work. Yeah. So Thomas, we spoke about all that, and I would like to maybe touch into like some of maybe you could share your biggest challenges that you've faced so far in Gynashteem. What would they be?
So I think, like any business, you know, to grow the business, you need customers, right? So, you know, to develop a service or a product that is you know, appreciated by customers, and to get them to recognize it and all that. So that's the normal challenge of starting any business, right? So for us, I would say the additional challenge which normal companies don't have is that we hire on attitude. So most of our people, our IT people, normally don't have any IT qualifications. They're all self-taught. Our top programmer never went to computer school.
Right.
He's a Vietnamese fellow, and very, very good, self-taught. So when you hire people like that, you get a lot of, you know, raw diamonds that you can actually, you know, polish and they become, but some of them can't make it, you know, and I think that's the biggest challenge, right? And if people can't make it and accept that they can't make it, then it's one thing. But there are often people who can't make it, and they think it's everybody else's fault. So those are people who actually have the biggest challenge, right? Because they won't accept. And I think, and we are a company that actually are quite tolerant in that sense, because we have situations where people can't make it, they have to leave the company, and then 6 months later, 1 year later, they come back, try again, and give them another chance. And we actually had people who come back 3 times.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And some of them eventually make it, because it's one thing to join a company and then, you know, it's everybody else's fault, right? Or you say, you know, why the company is not like this, not like that. So I said, fine. If you're not happy here, then go and find an employer who you'll be happy with, right?
Yeah.
So of course they go out there and they find that, well, it's not so easy, right? And you know, any job today you take, you know, the demands are very, very high, and, you know, expectations are high. So, and this is what normal situation, not talking about people with disabilities, right? So I think after a while they realize that this is not so easy, right? It's easy to complain, but you know, then they want to come back and try again. We still give them an opportunity.
Yeah, I think being in the company, I've heard of stories of employees who go outside to work on another company, but they realize that the work culture is nothing like Gynashteem, you know. They say Gynashteem is home, you know, like, because I believe the remote work model Gynashteem has pioneered for a long time. So you guys are really good at this, you know, and everyone works remotely, right?
That's right, 100%. We don't have any physical office anywhere in the world.
Exactly.
We have people in more than 25 countries.
Wow. Yeah. And that's the thing, you guys have been doing it for a long time, but this is only now trending thanks to COVID, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So we spoke about the challenges, but now Gynashteem is doing really well, and you guys are moving up the levels. So what is your future plans for Gynashteem? Maybe you can tell us about that. Yeah.
So, we started in 2018. So we're basically in our 14th year. We lost money for the first 6-7 years. And then we started to kind of just about break even with a small profit for about 5 years. And then we really kind of kicked in 2021 last year, where suddenly everything came together.
Okay.
Our business volume grew by 3 times compared to 2019. So in 2 years, 300% growth.
So why the sudden surge?
I think it's a combination of, I suppose, 3 things, right? One is the normal growth of our business, which we are getting some critical mass. The second thing is that unfortunately, we have to say that we have to be thankful for COVID-19. So suddenly, what we have been trying to do became the norm, the sexy thing, right? So work from home, our operations were not affected at all with COVID-19. We could serve our customers. The only concern I had at that time was that we could lose our customers because they could go out of business. But fortunately, over the years, we built our clientele mostly with big companies, multinationals, and government departments. So largely not affected. So we were able to keep, and then we could grow the business. And because we were in e-learning, in digitalization, everything, so suddenly everything we were doing, became very relevant and became in demand. So we started to do other things like help people, do web development, building up digital platforms and all that kind of stuff, right? Managing databases, building up databases for them. And the third thing is the area of sustainability, or ESG, environment, social impact, and governance. And because of what we are, we've always been big in that space. And then we got our B Corp certification in 2015. We were the top B Corps among the world, for every year since. And that kind of grew into services under ESG. So we were commissioned by Singapore Business Federation to run, ESG training for SMEs to help them incorporate ESG principles into how they manage their business. So then we were asked by RAISE Singapore, the Social Enterprise Authority of Singapore, to help them screen applications for social enterprise. Then we started doing for ASEAN, and then we started to do work for B Lab Global, the company, the organization behind B Corp certification, and that's now our biggest business. And so somehow, I think if I can say the word providence, right? Because how we started, we became a remote work company. We became very digitalized in e-learning because of our limitations of the people that we hire. So our limitations kind of guided us on this journey. And because of our purpose, we became very strong as an ESG kind of company, and people recognize that. So now we become, and that's the biggest part of our business, providing ESG services.
Yeah, and Genashtim is a social enterprise, right?
We are registered as a social enterprise in Singapore and in Malaysia as well. So I suppose we are a social enterprise. It depends on how you define a social enterprise, right? We are for profit. We are not shameful about that.
I think people have this misconception that social enterprise are companies that do good, but they're like not making much money. So that's a wrong, because I think Genashtim is doing well. 100 plus employees, and all of them have a salary that they can live a good, fulfilling life. So this is a good example, right? And I love how you said Genashtim is a certified B Corp, right? So not many people know about B Corp, but that's trending and it's going fast. So eventually everyone wants to certify as a B Corp. And can you tell us more maybe about, I heard there's a partnership with B Corp, Genashtim and B Corp.
Okay, so we became certified in 2015. We were the second company in Southeast Asia to be certified. And then we were trending as every year the top 10%. So when you're top 10% scoring in the B Corp environment, you get the title Best for the World among B Corps, right? So you're Best for the World every year. And then in 2018, B Lab wanted to expand in Southeast Asia. So we got the franchise to represent them in Southeast Asia. So companies now who go through B Corp certification, we are helping them. We don't do a lot, but we are the ones responsible to respond to companies who want to go for the B Corp certification,
Right.
kind of tell them what to do and all that. And then because we are doing that for them for 2 years, last year, because the B Corp, like you said, right, the trending is really exponential.
Yeah.
And there's so many companies now wanting to get certified.
Yeah.
In 2020, if you completed your assessment, you achieved the number of points to get certified, you press submit to get certified, you have to wait for a year before anybody contacts you. So
That's long.
big complaints, and so I had to go and complain to B Lab and say, look, you tell us to go and encourage companies to come in, and now they're complaining that they've done their thing
Right.
and you're waiting, right? So as part of the conversation, it was like, at the end of the day, I was talking to the CEO of B Lab, and he said, look, can we be part of the solution rather than to be part of the problem complaining? So I said, why don't we provide some capacity, increase the capacity for you? And he said, can you hire people in different time zones and speaking all these different languages?
Yeah.
I said, we already have people in those areas, and
Yeah.
speaking all the different languages. At that time, we had people
Perfect.
probably in 15 countries, So they said, wow. And within 1 month, we got the first batch that were deployed in September last year. And then in February this year, they asked to increase capacity by 80%. And then last week, they came again and said they want to increase capacity further.
Fantastic.
So today, we represent 50% of the capacity of the global kind of a verification team. So we have 44 people deployed globally. And that is a very nice feather in our cap, because we have a global contract which is quite substantial, and and this is set to grow, because it's still probably 3 to 6 months wait if you today press the submit button if you've done your assessment. Still a bit of a wait.
I think that's a beautiful partnership, and I'm so happy for Gynashteem for landing that, But yeah, Thomas, I can go on and on talking about Gynashteem. It's such an amazing company. Wow, people, after this show today, people are just going to go check out Gynashteem. I hope they see your website and what you're doing. So for now, let's put Gynashteem aside. So Thomas, right now I want to ask you a really interesting question, which I've been waiting to ask you for a long time. A lot of young people see entrepreneurship as something cool to pursue. And it's also given because businesses are so easy to open these days. It's so easy to start one online. What are your thoughts about people rushing into starting a business, and how can they actually build a sustainable business?
So I became an entrepreneur at a very late stage. So I was 50 years old when I started Genashtim. It was the first attempt at entrepreneurship. I've been a corporate man for 25 years. And it's very hard for me to think about entrepreneurship when you're doing well in the corporate life, because you lead a very cozy lifestyle. And so that's why I didn't. And I think that even for somebody like me who has done well in the corporate world, have a huge network of important people around the world and all that, it took me. I had to stomach 6-7 years of losses, right? And it took me like maybe a dozen years before we became really kind of successful as a company. So I think that sometimes it's difficult. I mean, there are young people who have a dream and they're very motivated, but if you haven't got your ears wet, it's kind of hard, right? I mean, you might stumble onto something and be the next Facebook or something like that, right? But I think generally it's very, very hard. I mean, business is hard, and you don't understand how business works. You don't know how to deal with, setbacks. You don't know how to deal with, and you don't have a network. You're not able to tap on your network to build the business and build your awareness. So, and especially in the social enterprise area, there's a tendency for everybody to look at young people to go into social entrepreneurship. And I find that I think it's a bit misguided, So, and I think that, you really need to know what you're doing and what you're talking about, and how you have to be a business person first. And then you think about how to add, inject social impact into your business, right? If you start with just a social impact thing, I mean, then it's very hard, because it's hard to sustain. You need to earn to be able to feed, the growth in the business. So if you're just focusing on the social impact part, it might be hard.
Yeah, and I also believe like you need to first be able to take orders before you go out and start giving orders to people, right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
A lot of them rush into that. They think they have what it takes to be a boss. But even if they do make it a little while, a lot of businesses don't survive after 5 years, correct?
Yeah. I think 5 years is a long time.
It's a long time.
Generally, startups don't survive that long because you run out of money very quickly.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to be able to, in a way, have quite deep pockets and be able to stomach that. And because the other way is to go and raise money, right? So I decided that we wouldn't raise funds from the very beginning for two main reasons. One is that I know that I will get very distracted because you have to deal with shareholders, funding. Companies have different expectations. You got to explain to them what you're doing. They question you about everything, right? The second thing is that I want to have the beneficial interest of the company by its employees. So I do not want to have investors, shareholders in the company.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. So Thomas, right now we're going to play a really fun game. This game is called Rapid Fire Question. So it's a game where I'm going to ask you a question and you're just going to answer as fast as you can without actually thinking about it. Yeah. So are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So my first question is, what is your favorite Malaysian food?
I'm from Penang, so I love everything to do with Penang food, especially the street food. So I would say number one on my list would be char kway teow.
Wow, char kway teow. I actually love char kway teow. Yeah. Okay. And my second question is, the person you admire the most?
The thing is that the people I admire the most are actually many of the people who work in Gynashteem. So I told you about people who cannot move anything below their neck and are able to be productive and lead have challenging jobs and all that. People like yourself, Bernard, I mean, in your condition, you not only now have a job, you deal with multinational companies around the world, and then you are doing this, kind of a thing on your own. So people like yourself, people like a lot of, the colleagues are people that I really truly admire because, they have so many setbacks in life and they are able to overcome them, suck it in and get things done and become successful. I mean, I could tell you about, say, one of our chief technical officer, Ryan. I mean, he was the first PWD that we hired.
The longest one,
Yeah, longest one. So he's been with us for 13 years, right? He is a polio victim. So since the age of 2, he's in a wheelchair. His legs are not properly formed. He has limited use of one hand and he's blind in one eye. I mean, he's now, he's running projects for the Singapore government, for Microsoft, and he manages a team of 25 people. I mean, so that is quite a thing to admire, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's really impressive, Yeah. Okay, that's such a touching answer and I love that. So next question will be the company you like the most, like companies out there.
Well, the thing is that I have to say at this point in time, the company I admire the most is actually B-Lab.
B-Lab.
And how the whole thing was set up and the purpose, the reason why the company B-Lab was set up. If I may just take 1 minute to quickly tell you the thing is that one of the co-founders, Bart Houlihan, who has now become a very good friend of mine, he ran a business. He had a business selling, I think, athletic footwear for basketball, I think something, sporting goods, right? And he had built a very successful company and he ran the company like a B Corp with a sense of employee, kind of a stakeholder management and all that. But then he reached a certain size and he sold the company. Somebody bought it for $200 million US. But the people who bought the company ripped it apart. Sacked a lot of people and destroyed, the company destroyed everything he created. So he was so devastated that he decided he's going to start a movement that will make sure that companies don't do that kind of thing, right? So that's how the whole B Corp movement was started.
That's how it was born, yeah.
So I really, for me, I have the greatest admiration for why it was set up, how it was set up, and the fact that today is a very global, and I think to me, it's the gold standard of, holding up and saying, I'm a company that, you leverages business as a force for good.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, and I think it's just a matter of time. Those that don't know B Corp, they're gonna know it's yeah. So Thomas, my next rapid fire question is your favorite movie.
Okay, so I'm a sucker for those epic type movies, and so I love watching Avengers and Iron Man, Marvel kind of anything epic, Star Wars, yeah.
Now you're like my type of guy. Right? I can speak to you now about movies, Wow, I didn't expect that. So you watch Avengers and all?
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
Cool. You watch it with your kids and all?
Well, my kids are 34 and 32, so I don't know whether you can call them kids. Yeah, I think we do share that interest, and I do watch it with them. Yeah.
Right. So just one last thing I forgot to touch about Gynashteem. The name Gynashteem, it's such a unique name. At one glance, people don't know why it's called Genashtim. Maybe can you share to us, why is it called Genashtim?
Okay, so when I first started the company and we decided that we would do e-learning, I tried to register a company with the name, executive education, online education, and all those kind of names that describe what we do. They all got rejected.
Okay, rejected by who, by the way?
By the registrar of companies. At that time, the first time we registered was in the Philippines.
Oh, okay.
So it got registered. So I was very fed up. So I said, well, I have to come up with a name that means absolutely nothing to our business. So I was doodling, and my wife's name is Genevieve, my daughter's name is Ashley, my son's name is Timothy. So I said Gynashteem would be. I said it's easy to Google. You won't find anything else. And so I said, we'll register this temporarily as a name. Eventually, I always felt that the brands we carry be important. Like, for example, we carry eCornell, so we sell the eCornell brand. English training is called Epic. So we actually promote the brand rather than the company. So the company is a kind of a holding company. But of course, over the years, Gynashteem has developed a brand because of what we do as a purpose. There was never kind of the intention to have Gynashteem as a brand. In fact, I think 3 or 4 years into the company's life, I actually gathered a few employees together and said, look, I want you to spend some time to come up with a new name for the company because I think it's inappropriate. And that time, Gynashteem, people can't pronounce it properly. They call it Genashtim, and most people thought we were an Indian company because of Ganesh and all that kind of stuff. So I always blame my wife. Why can't her name be Jenny or Jennifer? Then people won't pronounce the company name wrongly, but her name is Genevieve, so has to start with a G. So it is an acronym of my family members.
Wow, that just makes the entire story more beautiful. Like what Gynashteem doing is already beautiful, but now you think about the name, all makes sense. Right, thank you for that, Thomas. And Thomas, before we wrap up this show, let's give something for our audience, something special. So I would like to ask Thomas, what is one thing that people don't know about Thomas?
Okay, well, the thing is that I am a pretty open and transparent person, and I talk about everything, I share everything. So I don't do it in social media, but with people I know and all my staff in the Gynashteem, I'm pretty open. So there's nothing much that people don't know about me. If I were to say one thing, very controversial. I am quite unique, and I said this to my colleague in Manila just a few days ago. He thought that it was he's never heard of this, and I said that I don't believe in having children. And and I made my wife promise before we got married that we wouldn't have our own children.
Okay, that's interesting.
And from a very young age, I had this idealistic thing that the world is totally screwed up. So why bring more people into this world? And secondly, there are so many people in this world that are not loved. So if you have love to give, why don't you give it to somebody who's already here, right? But of course, my wife, cheated on me. So we have got 2 kids who both are not adopted, So but of course, we're very blessed. And she promised that she was on, birth control, but somehow, it's never 100%, right? So yeah, I think that's a bit controversial. A lot of people would think I'm kind of weird in that sense, but that's what I believe. I don't force it on anybody, but I just think that there are other things to do in this world than to bring in more lives to the planet. Yeah.
No, that is super interesting. Wow, I'm so happy you shared that, because that's actually a very high level of thinking. I mean, I understand if people don't agree or people don't understand, but I always thought the same way, because if you look at this world today, there's enough people in this world, and some of them are not given opportunities. So instead of bringing a child into this world, you can adopt. Make a unprivileged kid, give them the life they never had,
or even do fostering. I know quite a few people who grew up in foster homes, and they said that they were put in the foster home where the foster parents are drug addicts, so they grew up in that environment. So the chances are they would screw up their lives. So why can't we be foster parents? I mean, and look after kids where parents are not looking after them, and not to mention orphans, right? I mean, so there's so many of them all over the world. So there's so many kids that are
exactly, and they're just sad. Some of them are just wishing for their life to be in a house with a roof on top of their head, with parents who love them, give them whatever they want.
We love kids. I mean, my wife and I both, we babysit for my wife's cousins and all that. So, kids would normally like to be in our home because, we cook and then we look after them, and stuff. No problem with that. It's not that we don't like kids, it's just that we just feel that we don't need, and that's what I tell my children. We don't need to be grandparents. But, if they want to have your own kids, we love them. But there are no pressure on our side.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think everyone listening is in for a treat that is going to make them think, and I like that. I like that answer. Thomas, this has been such a great session. I have to say this, I'm so grateful for having you here. You are someone I look up to very much since day one. It still feels like a dream that you're right in front of me. So Thomas, the least I can do is give you a gift. You're all the way in Malaysia. You're not going to be here for long. So I have something for you right now. And I'm going to give it to you. Okay.
I'm excited. What is it?
Yeah, let's see. So Thomas, as you know, I run a small startup on the side. So this is actually from my brand, Dawn Adaptive. It's a magnetic shirt. Have you ever used a magnetic shirt?
No, I never come across it at all.
So this is for you. Check it out.
Thank you. So Dawn, it plays on your
Dawn Adaptive.
Okay.
Adaptive as in adaptive clothing.
Okay. So let's see what we have here. Oh, it's a batik.
Yeah, we actually collaborated with a batik brand called Furedi KL, and we put our magnets inside.
Okay, so all the buttons are okay. This is cool.
Cool, right? You see how easy it opens and closes?
I wish all my shirts are like that.
You can just
rather than having to fumble, and some of those shirt buttons are really kind of difficult to deal with. So this is. Thank you very much. I would wear this. I'm actually short of batik shirts. Actually,
really,
haven't bought one in probably 15 years.
Yes, and I hope every time you look at the shirt, you remember of Malaysia and our great heritage.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're most welcome, Thomas.
Yeah.
So Thomas, the cups here are really special because when you drink this cup, this becomes your cup, and I'm going to keep it for memories. So as you know, at the end of all my show, I get my guests to sign the cup.
Okay.
So Thomas, here's a marker pen for you. Go ahead and sign the cup.
Okay. This is all right.
Yeah.
How do I?
It's like your autograph to me. Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
All right. Great. Thomas signed the cup.
So
beautiful.
But I have to give this to you. I don't get to keep
yes,
it.
I'm going to keep it as a collection.
But it's on loan to you.
Yes, you see, I have this dream of keeping beautiful collections of all the guests that comes on my show. And yeah, they're all special guests.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So every time we meet, you have to bring it. We're going to drink coffee with it together.
Definitely. I'll bring this cup and show you. Do you remember this? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Thomas, before we end the show, please tell them where can they find you. I'm sure they want to connect with you. Can you tell them your social media? Where are you online? Where are you?
So I'm not really, being my age, right? I'm not really a social media person, but I do have a LinkedIn profile, and I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
I have to apologize that I don't post very often.
So it's Thomas Ng, right?
Yes, Thomas Ng, and you can find me. I think you can show the link.
Sure. Okay.
And but the main thing is that go to the Gynashteem website, and you will find a lot of information about Gynashteem. Go to the news page, and then we post everything that we do there.
Okay.
So you can see a lot of what we do, and at the request of my colleagues, just a few months ago, we actually have a page called Our Founder. So I'm actually finally on the website. Previously, I wasn't even there, right? So
Right.
if you want to have more details about what I do and my background, you can actually find it on the Founders page. But do go to the news, and you can see all the different things we are doing, all the awards that we have been getting around the world. And yeah, basically, and then the other thing is go through to the website on our people. And actually, most of our people have posted a short video or a short a write-up about themselves. We make it totally open. Anybody can post, and you can find very interesting people from around the world with very interesting backgrounds.
Yeah, you heard it, guys. So check it out. It's a beautiful website, www.gynashteem.com. Right. Thomas, thank you so much. This has been so far my favorite session.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.